Hi everyone, in this video we're going to talk about how to make your essay flow better. When students receive feedback that says your essay does not flow, it can be frustrating because that comment is not easy to understand. Does it mean that the writing's unclear? Does it mean that paragraphs are in the wrong order? Or does it mean that the argument is weak? Well, usually it means that the reader is struggling to follow the logic of the essay. The flow of an essay is often about how smoothly your ideas move from one sentence to another, from one paragraph to the next, and from the introduction to the conclusion. A good essay should feel like a guided journey. The reader should understand where the essay is going, why each point appears where it does, and how each paragraph connects to the main argument. One of the first ways to improve essay flow is through logical organization. Start by asking yourself, what is the best order for these ideas? Many students write in the order that ideas come to mind, but that's not always the best order for the reader. For example, if you're writing about why a project failed, you might organize the essays around cause, poor planning, weak communication, resource problems, and lack of leadership. If you're writing about a policy issue, you might organize it by background, key problem, impacts, options, and solutions. If you're comparing two theories, you might organize the essay by similarities, differences, weaknesses, and strengths. The important point is that the essay structure should match the purpose of the essay. Good flow starts with good planning. A second way to improve flow is by sequencing. Sequencing means placing ideas in the order that makes sense. A common mistake is often jumping too quickly between points. One paragraph discusses one issue, the next paragraph introduces a completely different issue, and then the reader is left wondering, how are these two connected? To avoid this, think carefully about progression. A useful sequence might be define the issue, explain the background, identify the key problem, present evidence, analyze the significance, consider alternative views, reach a conclusion. Such a sequence helps the reader understand not only what you're saying, but why you're saying it in that order. In academic writing, sequencing is especially important because your essay isn't just a collection of points, it's an argument. Each paragraph should build on the one before it. Another important technique is using topic sentence. The first sentence of a paragraph should usually tell the reader what the paragraph is about. For example, poor communication was a major factor in the failure of the project. This sentence clearly introduces the point. Contrast that with a weaker version that might be, there were some issues with communication. That latter sentence is vague and it doesn't create strong direction. Strong topic sentences improve flow because they act like signposts. They show the reader where the argument's going. You can test the flow of your own essay by reading the first sentence of each paragraph. If the sentences don't create a logical outline of your argument, your essay might need restructuring. You may also want to consider transitions. Transitions are words and phrases that show the relationship between ideas. For example, if you're adding a similar point, you might write, furthermore, similarly, in addition. If you're contrasting, you might write, however, by contrast. On the other hand, if you're showing cause and effect, you might write, as a result, therefore. This suggests that. If you're giving an example, you might write, for example, this can be seen in. Transitions help the reader understand how ideas are connected. However, transitions should not be used to cover up poor structure. Simply adding however or therefore does not automatically make an essay flow. The ideas themselves need to connect logically. Think of transitions as bridges. A bridge only works if there's something meaningful to connect. Another common problem is paragraph order. Sometimes students have good points, but they put them in the wrong place. For example, you may introduce a recommendation before fully explaining the problem. Or you may present a counter-argument after the conclusion. Or you may include background information halfway through the essay when the reader needed it earlier. When editing, ask yourself, does the reader have all the information they need before this point appears? Would this paragraph make more sense earlier or later? Does this section build logically from the previous one? Flow often improves significantly when paragraphs are moved into a better order. You should also make sure that every paragraph connects back to the essay question. A paragraph may be well written, but if it does not support the main argument, it can interrupt the flow. This is where the so what question helps. Once you've read each paragraph, ask yourself, so what? Why is this point here? How does it help answer the question? How does it connect to the argument? If you can't answer these questions, the paragraph might need to be revised or removed. One other factor impacting flow is sentence clarity. Even if your overall sentence structure is strong, long or confusing sentences can slow the reader down. Try not to overload one sentence with too many ideas. If a sentence is difficult to read out loud, it might need to be shortened. For example, Due to the fact that the organization had several problems in relation to communication and leadership, this resulted in delays and caused the project team to experience confusion. It's a long sentence. A clearer version would be poor communication and weak leadership caused delays and created confusion within the project team. The second sentence flows better because it's shorter and more direct. Another useful technique is repeating key terms carefully. Students are sometimes taught not to repeat words, but in academic writing, some repetition can improve clarity. If your essay is about organizational accountability, keep using that phrase where appropriate. Don't constantly replace it with vague alternatives such as this issue, this thing, or the situation. Clear repetition reminds the reader of the main idea. And finally, the conclusion should also support the flow. A strong conclusion should not feel like a sudden stop. It should bring the essay together by returning to the main argument and showing how the key points connect. Avoid introducing major new ideas in the conclusion. If the idea is important enough to include, it probably belongs in the main body of the essay. So to conclude, essay flow is about logical movement. A strong essay does not simply present information, it organizes information in a way that helps the reader follow the argument. For improved flow, focus on structure, sequencing, topic sentences, transitions, paragraph order, and clear sentences. Before you submit your next essay, ask yourself, do my ideas appear in a logical order? Does the next paragraph connect? Good flow is not about making your writing sound fancy, it's about making your argument easy to follow. And when the reader can follow your argument, they're much more likely to be persuaded by it